with us tonight, and I will not waste time by talking. You guys all came here to hear them speak, so I will hand it right off to Anthony Bruto.
Great, thank you. Wow, great crowd. Awesome. So before I get into more detail about who I am and what I'm about, I want to see a quick show of hands, and I want to know who here has ever been afraid? Okay. Who here is afraid right now just to even admit being afraid? Anyone? Okay. And who here is not going to raise their hand no matter what I say? Anyone? Okay. So I want you to take a second and think about that fear. Maybe from the past or maybe even right now. And how has it held you back in your life? How maybe has it even kept you stuck in your comfort zone? And if that fear didn't even exist, how would you live your life today? If that fear was not an issue, how would it impact your health, your wealth, your career, your relationships? Would you go for that job promotion or maybe even change your career? Would you ask for help in those moments in your life when you're feeling stuck and you're feeling alone? Would you do that speaking event or that podcast when maybe you're feeling like you're not good enough? Or maybe would you tell the people that you care about how much you love them and appreciate them? I want you to take a second and think about that. So who am I? My name is Anthony Bruto. I'm an author, a speaker, an empowerment coach. But beyond all of that, like more importantly, I'm just a kid from Medford, Long Island. I've been through some challenges, some struggles, some heartache, and some pain. But I've taken full responsibility for my life and my happiness, and now I want to help others do the same. And it's that very passion and my purpose to want to help others that inspired me to write my books. You know, my first book, Self-Evoution, I talk about my approach and the process that I used to get a better understanding and more clarity about who I am, what I want, why I want it, and what I'm willing to do for it. And my second book, most recent book, Unmasking Fear, I talk about all those fears and how they hold us back in our life, whether it's fear of being vulnerable, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of uncertainty. Do any of those resonate with you? And I think one of the biggest barriers that most people have from achieving what it is they want in their lives, whether it's in their relationships or their career, is their relationship with fear. And that's what I really want to talk with you tonight about, is fear. And I can tell you as I stand up here right now, I can honestly say, I'm afraid. Like I'm scared. But I knew if I didn't step out of my comfort zone and embrace that fear, I would not be here tonight to share that message with you. Now I knew prior coming into this event, I had 15 minutes to speak. And I want to do my best to stay within that 15 minutes. I might go over, but we'll see. I think I got it. And I thought about reading some of the stories in the books, which there are some great stories in there. I definitely recommend checking them out. But I decided I wanted to share a different story. One I think that you can relate to within the context of your relationship and how fear might play a role in that. And that story is about a conversation that I had with my dad and how I embraced fear and how it changed our relationship. So just a little bit more about me. I grew up in Medford, Long Island, as I mentioned before. My parents divorced when I was pretty young. I can't really remember how old I was. You know, my sister and I lived with my mom, and she loved us so much to the point where she was very fearful of our safety, as most parents are with their children. But growing up, I allowed that fear to kind of dictate my life. I kind of played small. I kind of stayed in my comfort zone. I really didn't take risks. I allowed that fear to keep me in a job for many years that I didn't really care about. I wasn't passionate about it. I allowed that fear to keep me in unhealthy relationships for a long time that just were not very good. And I also allowed that fear to prevent me from having a relationship with my dad. So my dad, you know, he was there, but he wasn't really there. What I mean by that is, he was a quiet guy. He didn't talk much. You know, communication was not a strong point within our relationship. And growing up, that's how it was. We didn't really talk much. I didn't even know what that looked like. I kept everything very deep down inside. And I wanted my relationship to be stronger with my dad, but it just wasn't. And as I grew up, into my teenage years, my 20s, my 30s, even to my early 40s, my relationship with my dad just was kind of there, just kind of existed. He didn't really know who I was, I didn't really know who he was, and that's just how it was. I mean, there would be times, there would be months that would go by, I wouldn't even talk to him. We wouldn't even talk. And when one of us actually did get the courage to call the other, it was just a surface level conversation where like, hey, how are you? Things are good, everything's the same, okay, great, talk to you later, love you, bye. And that was it. I didn't know anything different. And it was just about 2 years ago, I experienced a really bad breakup. And it really had me at a point in my life where I was questioning who I was. Like, who was I being? Who did I want to become? How are my relationships? And I dove into personal growth, self-development, started working on myself, working on my insecurities, my fears. And I knew if I wanted my relationship with my dad to change, that I needed to change. So I decided I'm going to start calling my dad more often. I decided I'm going to call him every Wednesday, every week. And I did. But the funny thing about that was, nothing really changed. We just were on the phone more often. Conversations were just there. We still had that disconnection. And as I continued to do more work, a lot of unresolved pain came up that I uncovered. And I finally decided, if I want to build the relationship that I wanted with my dad, the one that I truly wanted to experience, I needed to open up to him. Like I needed to embrace that fear. I mean, just the thought of opening up to my dad was scary to me. You know, growing up, the concept of being a man and being vulnerable, coexisting together, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't believe it was true. So I remember I decided I'm going to have a conversation with my dad. I'm going to open up to him. Because I knew if I didn't, nothing would change. And I remember that night when I called him. Now the week before, fear kicked my ass. Like, I wanted to talk to him about it before, and I didn't. I swirled out. And that's okay, but not in that moment. I knew I'm going to do it. It's important to me. I'm going to make this happen. And I remember, right when I was about to call him, like, my hands, like, they were shaking. Like, I had the phone, and I couldn't even keep it steady. I remember, I think I actually might have bruises on my ear because the phone kept hitting me as I was, like, getting ready to call him. And my heart, it was pounding so fast, it was like going to burst out of my chest. And fear was all around me. And I don't know if anyone has ever seen or maybe even have those weighted blankets that feels like when you put it on, like it's like feeling like a hug. Well, that's how fear was on me, but it was not a hug. It did not feel like a hug. It was like this suffocation, like holding me down. And right before I was about to call him, man, my thoughts were racing. Like, what am I going to say? What's he going to say? How's this going to play out? What does it even look like? What's going to happen? And I don't know if anyone can resonate with that, like those thoughts that you have when you're trying to predict a future outcome of an event. And you think about all these things that are going to happen, but usually, what are those things? Like the worst case scenarios, right? We don't think about all the good stuff that can happen. So there I was about to call my dad. Now, my dad did not know we were going to have any deep talk compared to what we've normally had. He didn't know what I was going through in the moment. And I call him up, and we just start talking, typical conversation, and about 2 minutes in, I say to him, hey, Dad, like, I need to tell you something. And he says, sure, what's up? And I say to him, you know, I've been really working on myself and working on my fears and insecurities and wanting to become a better, stronger, grounded man for myself and for the people in my life. And I need to ask you something. And he said, okay, what? And I took a deep breath. And I said, Dad, can you forgive me? And he said, forgive you for what? And I said, Dad, growing up as a kid, I believed that you didn't love me because you weren't around as much as I wanted you to be. And we didn't share and talk as much as I'd hoped we would. And because of that, I believed you didn't love me. And I know that's not true. I know that you love me. You would do anything for me. And I want to know if you can forgive me for believing that. And then there was silence. Now, I don't know if anyone's had a difficult conversation with anyone, and then there's an awkward silence. That's exactly what I was experiencing in the moment. And whether that silence was a few seconds, a few minutes, it felt like forever. And then I finally hear something on the end of the phone. I hear my dad clear his throat, almost as if he sounded like he was choked up a bit. And he says to me, "Anthony, yes, I forgive you." And in that moment, I felt like this weight that I had been carrying around my whole life had lifted off me. And although I can't describe how it was my dad felt, I believe he felt the same thing. It was like this unresolved tension evaporated. And now, in that moment, the dynamic of our relationship changed forever. And now when we talk. Conversations that were maybe 10, 15 minutes, they're 60 minutes, over an hour. This man that I grew up knowing, silent, quiet, I can't get him to shut up. He talks all the time. And is our relationship perfect? No, but it's so much better. And had I not embraced that fear, had I not opened up to my father, to this man that helped give me life, my relationship would continue to remain an empty shell of what it was. And even though my dad is not here tonight, I know he's going to catch this video when I post it later, Dad, I want you to know that I love you. And I appreciate you. So I ask you again, what are you afraid of? What fear has been holding you back, keeping you stuck in your comfort zone? Because until you take that first step beyond your comfort zone, beyond that imaginary wall that fear is built around you, it's where all the good stuff happens. Fear is a gift. It's an opportunity. The second step will only ever reveal itself once you have faith and courage to take the first one. Embrace your fear. Thank you. Thank you.